welcome to episode 87, everyone. This is another video in the basic series that I started a while ago, and this one will be looking at gap filling and rescribing panel lines. Guys, if you've been following this build, you know that in the last video we completed the cockpit section as well as the seats, and it's now time to fit this inside the fuselage provided to us by Rescribing. Now this is a gorgeous kit, one that really belongs in your stash, so let's hear from the sponsor. Guys, there are a number of Phantom kits available on the Supernova website right now, and if you stick around for the end of this video, I'll be supplying a promo code that you can use to get some discount if you order this kit right now. And speaking of Supernova Studio, they recently received the shipment of Vallejo products, much anticipated. So all your favorite paint sets, accessories and craft products are back in stock, and my goodness, that is a lot of boxes. So guys, look on the website and grab your favorite products. Now back to the build. First step is to, of course, remove the two fuselage halves from the sprues. Guys, these are absolutely gorgeous, beautiful molded detail, zero warpage. The one tip I can give you when you do cut parts from a sprue is to leave a little bit of leftover sprue, these little sprue tabs. And what I do is I rather clean them up on the part itself once I've removed it, just because I have better control of it. If you cut them too short on the sprue itself, you sometimes tend to break the styrene. What I do is I just cut the largest part of the sprue tab away with my side cutters, and then you can use either your hobby knife or a scraper and remove some more, and finally just clean it up with a fine grit sander, similar to what I'm doing on the screen there, and that should clean up the part nicely. So there we go, that is the dry fit, and as you can see guys, the fit is absolutely perfect. The quality on this Rescribing kit is really fantastic. Now, this is quite innovative. This is a section for the spine on the back of the aircraft, and this actually covers up the seam between the two fuselage halves. So if this is in place, you actually won't see that seam at all, and there's no risk of losing any of that precious detail on the back of the aircraft. So having cleaned these up, the first step is to prime these the inside of the cockpit, those sections there. I'll be using Mr. Hobby primer, and then I just need to paint the inside similar to what I did with the cockpit section. So there we go, all primed up, and you know by now next step is to add some pre-shading, done with pure white. And once this is done, I can use the two interior colors. I use sea gray as well as dark sea gray, and there we go. The inside of those cockpit sections have been painted. Now next I need to glue the fuselage halves together, and what I do is I first use super glue, similar to tack welding, just to get those two halves together, and then use Tamiya extra thin styrene cement just to glue everything in place. So that's the first half done. There's the second one. Everything tends to snap into place if properly aligned, and there we go. Hopefully this will glue together properly. Just following up there with a little bit of extra thin Tamiya cement, one of my favorite adhesives, the bottom as well as the side, and then I left this overnight. Now in scale modeling, things seldomly go according to plan, and the next morning I discovered that actually I have a gap. Now guys, this is not Rescribing, this was actually me. Somehow I still managed to misalign these fuselage halves, and this left me with a little gap. And because there's a gap in the front, there's also a gap in the back. And you can see there, right there by the tail, this is something that will need to be cleaned up. For gap filling, I'll be using one of my favorite products. This is plastic putty from Vallejo, and I'll be coloring this with some Model Air paint. The thing about plastic putty is it can be diluted with ordinary tap water, and that's one of my favorite features. Start by adding some of the product to a little mixing tray, And next, just take ordinary tap water, 1 or 2 drops should be fine. And then start mixing this up into a thinner consistency. I need to very carefully now fill the gap between the already painted canopy section and the fuselage half. And more or less that consistency will be fine. You can see there on your screen. Just keep on adding product until you're happy with the consistency. And at this point, I can color this. I'll be using Model Air NATO Black, similar to the color that I used on the cockpit. And I now just mix this into the filler that I diluted with tap water. So there we go. That is perfect, more or less something like that. And I can now apply this to the model. Now to apply this, I'll be using this disposable brush. This is a fine brush, and once I've used this, I can just chuck this into the bin. So very carefully now, I start filling the gap between the cockpit section as well as the fuselage halves. And using that fine brush makes this very easy. And the reason why I need to be very careful in applying this filler is because the canopy sill is already painted, and I don't want to lose all that detail. Once the filler is applied, I want to remove the excess, and for this I'm using a cotton bud and some tap water, and just gently removing the excess filler from that canopy sill. This is now left to dry. Now, once the filler is dried, just to clean things up properly, I used a fine grit sanding sponge and just made sure that that surface, that canopy sill, is completely smooth. And guys, there's the result. Certainly happy with this. And if you compare the before and the after, you can see there's quite a difference. That gap is missing, and we now have a nicely finished canopy sill. Only thing remaining to do is just to touch up the detailing that I did on the original canopy sill. Some dry brushing and just to get that chipping back in place. And while I had the dry brush out, I decided also just to put some finishing, some detailing on some of the additional parts. With this detailing done, I glued the front console in place, and you can see there's a little bit of glue that spilled onto the side, the dreaded shiny spot. Now to fix this, I'll be using Precision Anti-Shine from AK. This is a fantastic product, something I featured before, and great to cover up those little mistakes. One of the things I love about this kit is that the nose cone is molded as a single piece. There's no halves to be joined and gaps to be filled. And as always, remember to add a weight to the nose cone. You don't want the Phantom to be a tail sitter when you're done with it. Now onto the gap at the tail section. Now you can see I tried to sand this away unsuccessfully, and you can see there's no seam on the actual Phantom. So this is something that will need to be fixed. The only solution is to sand this flat, and of course we'll be removing all that detail, and we'll need to rescribe the detail that we just removed through sanding. I'm again going to use my plastic putty from Vallejo, my filler, and this is carefully applied to the seam just to make sure that there are no gaps present. And then once this is dried, just sand it flat just to make sure that I've got a completely smooth surface. And next we'll have to rescribe the detail back into this tail section. I have hobby friends in Europe and the two Americas that are very good at this, and I have to admit I'm not an expert at this. However, I do have the ability to do some basic rescribing, and that's something I'll be showing you next. Again, this is not the method, this is merely my method, and maybe it'll work for you too. For this I'll be using this plastic labeling tape. This is a great tip that I found online, and this will make an excellent guide to do the necessary scribing. You'll need some scissors just to cut a section of the tape. Now I've got two types of scribers. One is the pen type, and then this one from Tamiya. I've never gotten my head around using the Tamiya one, so I'll be playing it safe, and I'll be using this pen type scriber for the actual scribing. There are other tools available to help you with scribing and rescribing panel lines. For instance, these templates from Tamiya and from Eduard, and these are really multi-purpose tools, They can be used for a variety of modeling tasks. And you can see there the Tamiya instructions that tells you how to use this. So to start with, we'll be needing a little piece of this labeling tape. I use my scissors and I cut a little section. And now I cut a small section of a small strip of this labeling tape, and the adhesive will help us on the part itself. So this is now placed where the position of that original panel line was, and using the tape as a guide, I use my scribing tool and just carefully rescribe that line. And I continue doing this all the way down that tail section until I've rescribed all those panel lines in their original position. So there we go. And of course we've got these rivet holes that are now also missing after we sanded and filled the tail section. I'm going to use my scribing tool just to replace those rivet holes. This is done very carefully and making sure that everything is correct. The last step is just to carefully sand this smooth, just to make sure that everything is nice and tidy. And guys, there you go. That is some basic rescribing. If you build aircraft models, at some point maybe this will be necessary, and hopefully I've pointed you in the right direction.
Courage, daring, and enormous skill are the hallmarks of the fighter crew. Their weapons were cannon and missiles.
Guys, we are celebrating Fabulous Phantoms at Supernova Studio, and if you use the promo code of the Sprue Phantoms, you will get a 10% discount on any of the above Zukemura F4 Phantom kits, that being the C model, the D model, the E model, the G model, and the Naval J model. And guys, these are really excellent high quality kits, and they really belong in your stash. So do make use of this opportunity to get some discount off your purchase on the Supernova Studio website. This is it then for episode 87. Thank you for joining me. As always, follow me on Instagram. I do frequent updates on all my builds there, and you're guaranteed not to miss a single thing. Thank you for watching.